Okay, everybody's good? All right. Well, we'll just get started. So, everyone, I'm Candace Stewart. I can't talk right now. I'm Candace Stewart. This is my podcast, Trade Secrets. I'm here in Studio 2 at East West Studios, which I have the good fortune of managing. And today, my guest is a real treasure. It's Don Randi. Hi, Don. How you doing?
Yeah. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we always say, well, Don, amongst many things, you would know Don. He's an incredible keyboard player, pianist, part of the Wrecking Crew, worked on every record you probably ever heard. And he's the owner of the Baked Potato, a great jazz club here in Los Angeles. But we're lucky, man, to have such incredible players here in LA. So, Don, it's not really scripted. I just kind of start out with the basics. So, where were you born?
I was born in New York City.
Oh, wow.
But I was raised upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains.
Really? That's kind of cool.
Where most of the acts from New York would work in the summer times.
Right.
So when I was 15...
The circuit.
Yeah, the circuit. When I was 15 years old, I was accompanying different acts from New York. But all the hotels there had bands.
Right.
All the guys from New York that would take vacations and put in subs for 2 weeks. So I got to work with some of the greatest musicians. But I was very small when I was 15. I was 5'2", the people I accompanied...
He's 8 feet tall now, ladies and gentlemen. No.
The people I accompanied, though, I knew their material, so I would have to tell the bands what to play, and they'd want to kill me because here's this little short kid telling them what to do.
Well, you end up being the musical director, right?
Yeah, right.
And so, I'm familiar with some of your illustrious history, but we'll start out with the early years. And so what did your mom and dad do?
My father actually started the first actors union in New York.
Wow.
And he knew everybody, all the actors, all the writers, all the screenwriters. And then during the Depression, he got to work for Roosevelt, for the WPA, the Works programs.
Wow.
Helping actors and musicians all over for like $3, $5.
Right.
They would come in and ask for a reading of a new play or something like that, and he would know who to call.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they all knew my father. And
what was your dad's name?
His name was Max Schwartz.
Oh, okay. So your real name is Schwartz?
Schwartz, yeah. It was originally, yeah.
How'd you get Randy?
Well,
I thought maybe you were Italian. I thought maybe it was Randazzo.
Let me tell you something. It's so funny. I tried to use Schwartz, but the first gig I got was Marianne's Surf Club in Los Angeles on 6th Street in Manhattan, a block from Western. And I couldn't have had a better boss ever if anybody ever started out like I did. Wow. It was my first jazz gig, and they had no W's and no Z's.
Oh, okay.
And my girlfriend at that time, who I later married, my first wife, her name was Randi.
Oh, okay.
But with a
Y.
Her
first name was Randi?
Randi, yeah.
Okay.
So I made it Don Randi, only I changed the Y to an I, and everybody, it was easy.
Yeah, the rest is history. So you're playing the circuit in the Catskills. You're a whippersnapper at 15. What instruments do you play besides piano?
Well, I play all keyboards.
Okay, gotcha.
But I played in a marching band in high school. I played the sousaphone.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, what did you do in a marching band?
Yeah.
So what brought you, well, you mentioned already coming to L.A., but how old were you when you first came to L.A.?
I was 17.
Okay, that's pretty ballsy.
Yes, yeah. My father had passed away.
Oh.
And my mom was raising me, and I was incorrigible from after my father died.
I'm sure you were an angel.
No control. And some of the guys I grew up with became very famous.
Some tough characters?
One of them became one of the most famous doctors in the world, who the principal refused to recommend for school. He said, join the Marines, you'll never be worth anything.
Oh, my God.
This guy discovered some of the greatest medications for people in the world, Dr. Lemberger.
Oh, I've heard that name.
He discovered Prozac and a number of other medications.
God bless you.
For Eli Lilly, yeah. He was a good friend of mine.
Oh, that's amazing. So did you come out here like on your own, or did you come out here with a group?
My mother was still alive. She came out, and she was a secretary. She could work as a secretary.
God bless, single mom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. And I had to go to work right away.
Yeah.
And I got a great job for California record distributors.
Was it like a pressing plant?
No, he distributed all of the East Coast jazz and all of the West Coast jazz. I had never played a jazz note in my life at that point.
So you'd been doing big band stuff.
Swing stuff,
Right.
that was written, or accompaniment for acts that everything was written. So, and I always liked the jazz because my father would play it all the time.
Yeah.
He would play Brubeck. He loved Nat King Cole. That was my first, listening to that piano that Nat played.
I'm a huge John Coltrane and Mingus fan.
Yeah. So what can I tell you? It was interesting, and I had to listen to Horace Silver, Miles Davis, all the early Prestige recordings.
So great.
And then on the West Coast, all the contemporary recordings that were from like Hampton Hawes.
So what did you actually do at the job?
I was a stock boy.
Oh, okay.
And I came up with an idea because in those days. Oh, this is a great story. I never tell anybody.
There you go. I can't wait to hear.
You got me.
All right.
All the stores like Macy's, May Company, Orbach's, they were all in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But they all had record departments in them.
Dude, I wish they still did.
Sure. And all those stores, Sears, every one of them, they sold components, televisions, stereos, and records.
Bring it back.
Yes, it was so much fun, and it was a big business for everybody. But in those days, they would return records too if there was,
Scratch
they
or
get
something.
warped or scratched. So that was my job to get rid of them, and I hated to do that. So but you have to get rid of them because there was no way to do it. So when CDs came in, I said, "This is the end. This is that my."
I still agree it was the end. Yeah.
This is it. I have no more job.
Right.
So it was kind of wild working for Jack Lewick, and he allowed me to do whatever I wanted there. And a couple of the guys that worked with me, that were salesmen, were also musicians, and they were one of them. But his name was Bob Gerslauer, one of the greatest baritone and tenor players you'll ever hear.
Amazing.
And he did a lot of session work in the early days too. But he would say, "Come down," and I'd be scared to death.
Aw.
So I'd go and I'd sit in and learn.
Did you work here in this building? We're at 6000 Sunset, the old Western Recorders?
Not till later on.
Okay,
Later on,
gotcha.
I got to work here a lot.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that part.
Oh, yeah. But that's how I would go sit in at jam sessions. And then Marianne Kirk was the name of the lady who owned Marianne Surf Club.
Okay.
She also owned 4 other nightclubs and restaurants.
Are these like dinner theaters?
This was it was a regular, like a food, Italian food, and an alcohol. That was it. And she had a little, I forget the name of the piano.
Kind of like Vitello's is now,
Yes,
huh?
but she had a baby grand in there that was tuned once or twice a week.
Okay.
And she would walk around when we first started. If somebody was talking loudly, she'd walk over to them and say, "These people are musicians," and she just shut them right the fuck up.
We love this lady.
Oh yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
So I worked for her for on and off for 2 years, and then I got a gig on the Sunset Strip, and that's where Phil Spector came in to see me.
Wow.
This is like in 1962, 61.
Okay.
And then the next thing I know, Steve Douglas, who became a producer later on,
Don is 87 years young.
That's right. And Steve, God bless him, they're all gone now, but Steve became a very close friend of mine. And then the next thing I know, he brings Phil in to hear me.
Phil Spector, what a character.
He was incredible. That was the wall of sound.
Great producer.
Those sessions were pretty.
Do you remember the first session you did with Phil?
I sure do.
What was it?
Because it was a hit record.
Oh, of course it was.
He's a Rebel.
Oh.
The Crystals.
Yeah. He's a
and
rebel.
Darlene Love. Darlene Love sang all the parts behind them.
Yeah, I can't sing, but yeah.
But that was the first one. And I remember having my radio on, and I stopped. I had to pull over. I said, "I played on that."
Dude, it's so cool. It's so cool. But yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that the Ronettes was Ronnie Spector.
That's
was
right.
Phil's wife, Ronnie.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of Ronettes.
Be
and
My
all the
Baby.
Yeah, all that stuff. So when did, I don't know, what were some of the early gigs you did with Phil besides that? What were some of the other artists you worked with?
Well, right at the very beginning, Phil was the only one that we knew because we did 21 million selling records in a row.
Oh, my God.
So now you can imagine if you're, and they were independent sessions.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter. But he didn't care about the money of what it cost, and he insisted, how about this, on a union contract.
Well, God bless.
Yeah, so that when that caused a lot of the major companies that were getting away with murder say, well, Phil Spector's getting to hit records, and then who are they going to hire? The corporate guys like Capitol guys and RCA Victor and those guys, they were on budgets. They had to bring it in.
Yeah.
You had to get three to four songs in 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
If they weren't capable of doing that, they get fired.
Oh, wow.
It was a very, very tough way to go. Yeah. So who are you going to hire?
The guy that's making the million-selling records.
Yeah. So they hired. That's how the Wrecking Crew. The reason we got that, we would joke around. We took nothing seriously. And
did you and Mike Melvoin play?
Oh, I loved Mike Melvoin.
Amazing keyboard player.
When he first came to town, he would sub for me at Sherry's. At my gig I had for 13 years, from 1957 to 1970. And I said, Mike, you ought to do sessions. So he says, really? And
the rest is history.
Sure, Leon Russell when he first came to town.
Dude, a lot of people don't realize, and you were there, you lived it, but a lot of people don't realize that, Leon played on like some Doris Day. He played on some, and Glenn Campbell was part of the, who were all some of the people that you can think of that came in and out of the Wrecking Crew?
Well, I can start at Mike Rubini, who later became known as Michelle Rubini.
Okay.
Al DeLaurie, who became the producer of Glenn.
Okay.
Glenn Campbell. Yep. Billy Strange. Howard Roberts. Barney Kessel. Right in this room that we're sitting in.
We're in Studio 2 at East West Studios, 6000
we
Sunset.
did, years later, we did Kellogg's commercials.
Oh, yes.
And that was the first time Tony the Tiger.
I love it.
What was his name? Ravenscroft. Something Ravenscroft.
Yeah.
With that low,
that
wonderful
voice.
Right in this room.
Wow.
And we were in for 5 days. We did so many Kellogg's commercials. And it was a big payday
This
for all
room
of
was
us.
like the TV theme room, I think, also in the 70s.
A lot of people
it was
did that, yes.
Hawaii Five-0, I Dream of Jeannie, Batman, F Troop, stuff like that.
Sure.
But you were working with all, not just with Phil Spector.
I was working for. We were supporting our families by being studio musicians. The one difference between myself and most of the other guys, I had to play live. I had to be in a nightclub atmosphere. I had to get an audience reaction, good or bad. And
that was just how you did it.
I had to be. So I would have a lot of substitute pianos, but I'd always show up even for the end of the gig if I got to play an hour. I would leave Mike or Bruce Johnston of the Beach Boys would sub for me.
Oh, well, they're coming in next week on Monday. They're going to do an interview because there's another movie coming out about the Beach Boys. And it's been my good fortune to be the manager here. I came here in the late 90s when it was cello. And then Doug Rogers, my boss, brought me back in 2010 to East West. But, all these players, the people that are still with us, like you, God bless, because I did Stephen Stills came in and did a record a few years ago. And he came in and told me a story about he was 19 years old. Hopefully I'm not messing this up. And he came in, and it was one of the first sessions he'd ever done in L.A., and he was scared, on a session. And he was sitting behind Glenn Campbell, and Glenn Campbell had that high-pitched voice, and he turned around and he said, "Don't worry about it. Just keep time." That was a story that he told me. But what was some of the things that you can remember working on back then?
Well, everything,
we
did
right?
so many hit records.
Did you even know half the time what it was going to be for?
A couple of times, when we finished, I knew it was a hit record. And one of them was "Be My Baby." Mm-hmm. That one I knew with the Ronettes. And Ronnie was so incredible. But also, the biggest record, the most played record, was "Loving Feeling." You've Lost That Loving Feeling with the Righteous Brothers.
The Righteous Brothers, yeah.
But Nick Venet was producing at Capitol. This is one of my favorite songs that I got to do on because I wasn't expecting it. And it was for this really ratty-haired looking girl by the name of Linda Ronstadt and the Stone Ponies.
Oh, yeah.
And Nick says to me, "Don,
no, wasn't the Stone Ponies, wasn't that but were the Eagles, right?
That's right. So two of the guitar players. They didn't need studio guitar players. So the Eagles, a couple of those guys were there, and I think maybe
Bernie Ledden and
I
whoever
forget
else
who else.
played
There
with
was
the
one
Eagles.
other guitar player.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I walk into the session. I had worked for Nick Venet many times, and Nick had already told me, "You're not going to believe this little girl. I heard her in Topanga at some little club." and he got her signed to Capitol.
Yeah, and I had the good fortune of being friends with Phil Everly before he passed, and that song that he wrote, When Will I Be Loved, her cover of that track for Phil was real popular. Made him a lot of money.
I got to work with Phil and Don. I'll tell you.
What?
I'll tell you another story.
Phil's an angel, I'm telling you.
I'll tell you a story in a second about the Everlys here. In this building.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Where was I? So I walk in, and there's this giant harpsichord. And I immediately walk right past it and go sit down at the piano. And I look over, and Nick says, he's pointing to the harpsichord. I said,
Did you know how to play harpsichord?
I did. Well, it's a keyboard.
Right, yeah.
So he said, you're playing that. And then I panic. Somebody wrote out some kind of Bach thing for me to play on the harpsichord. Jesus. And she comes out, and she's delightful.
Yeah.
And she's a sweetheart right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And the part comes out. After half the date, they didn't bring the part in. I was playing piano. He says, now, this is the harpsichord. So I go over to the harpsichord, and I opened up the music, and it's all chords, nothing written. And when it comes to the harpsichord solo, it says, rock and roll Bach style.
Oh, what does that even mean?
Nothing. I made it all up.
Oh, my God, I love it.
It was all improvised, and then they decided to put it on the intro and in the solo.
Oh, I love it.
And people, I get calls from music schools wanting to know how hard it was to read that and all. I said, I made it up.
Yeah, there was no chart. Oh, I love it. Well, when you got players such as yourself and people that are that talented, I'm sure there was a lot of winging it going on, where producer would say, okay, this is what we're going for.
Yeah.
And you just be doing it on the fly. But, Hal Blaine, on drums, of course, Carol Kay on bass. So many great musicians that I feel, there's still a few of you with us, and I'm so glad that there are, you know.
Ray Pullman was a guy that, as great a guitar player was, he was also a wonderful bass player.
Okay.
And because of that, Carol decided to play bass. Okay. Carol, I still say she's a better guitar player than a bass player.
That's funny. Bass is hard, too. People don't really realize how hard bass is. But Tommy Tedesco, of course, was
Do you know what happened to Tommy in this building?
No, what happened to Tommy?
Upstairs, there was a bathroom upstairs years ago.
Okay, there's one now, but yeah.
Okay. And they had a big, heavy steel door on it. I don't know if you knew that.
Did he get locked in the bathroom?
He got locked in, and Tommy was claustrophobic.
Oh, Jesus.
And guess what he did? He ripped and kicked that door down.
Oh, my God, a steel door?
A steel door.
Well, his son, Damon Tedesco, comes in and does sessions. He was here last week, and, of course, his other son, Denny, made the documentary. But so that must have just been swinging. So you're supporting your families. Did you have kids then?
Yes, I had two children from a previous marriage, and then I have 3 kids from my present marriage.
Oh, man, 5 kids.
And I finally have a great-grandson, too, which is really great. He was just 3.
Oh, that's congratulations. So, but, there's probably just so many stories. I can't even imagine you can remember all of them.
We're recording Phil and Don.
Oh, yeah, that's how it, yeah.
The Bowling Green album that they did. Dick Glasser was the producer.
Okay.
I think for Warner Reprise. And they weren't getting along, Phil and Don.
Well, yeah.
And they got into
I was on the Phil team.
And it surprised me because Phil was a mensch. He was such a cool guy. He was
Don was kind of, the Everlys, no slurs on either. But brothers, tension, that happens. And Phil, his widow is a real good friend of mine, Patty Everly. So she'll hear this, and she'll be so happy to hear what she already knows, is that he was just an angel.
I nearly got in the middle of it when they were duking it out.
Oh, man.
And I jumped, and then the next thing I know, Don picks up a music stand, and he's ready to cut you in half.
Shit.
And I'm looking, I said, wait a second. And in the middle, what's even funny, the funny part of it, they used to have a pipe organ that was a real pipe organ that you had to do with the pedals. You had
like a pump organ,
A pump organ. And I suffer from asthma, and we had already been playing for 2, and I'm like this, and I said, stop fighting.
Oh, no.
And they're arguing, going at it. I had to go to the hospital.
Oh, Jesus.
And I had an asthma attack.
Oh, Lord. Lord.
They never knew that. I left here and went right to the emergency.
Because you're pro. But All right. Well, so Everly Brothers and just so many sessions. I mean, thankfully, Denny Tedesco made that film and shined a light. But I know you played with Nancy Sinatra, of course.
For years. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
She's above all of them for the simple reason that before I was musical director, when Billy Strange was there, I was a pianist in the band. And then when Billy didn't really want to do it anymore, she asked me if I would become the musical director.
Amazing.
And my terms were different because Hal didn't want to go on the road. I said, I'll do it under one condition, that you take my band as the full rhythm section.
Oh, I love. And who was in the band?
Oh, some incredible. Chet McCracken, who later became the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
John Sumner, who was the only guy that read stone cold the Edie Gourmet, Steve Lawrence Gershwin book in Vegas. He sat down there. Drummer got sick. Got called in immediately. He could sit down and do everything.
Amazing.
A guy by the name of Bobby Economo, who was from Florida State, and he ended up with Blood, Sweat, and Tears for quite a while.
Wow.
But all these drummers, everyone, Steve ended up playing with Glenn Campbell for I can't remember his last name right now. But all the musicians playing live was so important to them, and that was important to me.
So did Nancy tour a lot?
She did. We did a lot of touring.
Wow.
Toured all over the world with her.
Wow.
And what I was going to say about her is that when we got there, whoever was in the band, the phone would ring, is everything okay? And it wasn't her secretary, it was Nancy.
Oh.
So, I mean,
Love
and then later on, my wife came out as one of the background singers, and they've remained friends till this very day.
Did he ever play on anything of Frank's?
I did.
Oh.
One of the biggest songs at his first #1 record.
What was it?
Good question. It was a duet with Nancy. Something Stupid.
Something Stupid. And was that in Studio One or was it at Capitol? Might have been.
No, it was here.
It was here.
It was here.
Studio One at Western Recorders. Yeah, it's had different names over the years, but it's called East West now. It's Western Recorders. Then it was part of Ocean Way. Then it was called Cello, and that's when I came in the 90s. And I was late to the game, but now it's called East West, and thank God it's still here. And yeah, we're still doing sessions every day. It's the same.
Sure. And you mentioned Stephen Stills a minute ago.
Yes, so wonderful.
I'm going to see him on Wednesday next week.
You are. Please give him my love.
I will. And it's him and his Karen, I think her name is.
Yeah. Kirsten.
Kirsten. Well, we're doing a thing for the Karen Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Which is they raise millions of dollars to help addictive people.
Oh, okay.
And it's
very
in New York.
Cool.
It is cool. And my daughter, Leah, is very involved with the recovery for drug addicts.
Oh, fantastic.
She does that.
Oh, fantastic.
And she also is a great singer.
Oh, wow. That doesn't surprise me. Now, I kind of glossed over it. You said your dad passed and you had your mom, a single mom out here being a secretary. Had anyone else in your family, your siblings, other musicians, or anybody else play?
My kids, Justin especially, we did session here, the family.
Oh, yeah.
With Justin and Leah. That
Yeah.
was one of my favorite jobs I ever did.
But of your family, like, did your dad play anything?
No,
well, he was an actor, right?
He was an actor and a dancer, but he also wrote some songs.
Oh, okay.
And he was the ultimate liberal of all time.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go.
So he was very aware. What was his statement about? He hated religion.
Oh, okay. Well, it has no place in politics. That's for sure.
He just said. He said if there was no religion, there'd be half the wars would never happen.
You're probably right. That's a sad truth. I hate to hear. Now, your mom. I'm sure she's gone by now, but she came and stayed in California with you?
One of the funniest things that for a musician.
Was she okay with you being a musician?
Wait a second. She didn't mind the music part. No, she loved the music part. But all of a sudden, now I'm playing jazz.
Uh-huh.
So I had come home from a gig I had at Marianne's Surf Club, and I'm fast asleep. I was living with my mom still, and I get woken up by this light. It's a flashlight.
Oh, shit.
And it's my mother, and she's looking at my arm. I said, Mom, what are you doing?
Oh, she's worried you're a junkie.
She's worried I was, because I'm playing jazz, I had to be a junkie.
I had to be a junkie, right? Yeah. Oh, God. Well, Mom, you found out he wasn't a junkie and everything was okay. Yeah.
So
that's so crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, so, I mean, it's probably just, you've played on so many records, but I don't even know where to start. Like,
Well,
just,
it goes on forever. I'll tell you a fun thing that Jerry Fuller produced. This was at RCA Victor.
okay.
You remember a group called Spiral Staircase?
I do.
I love you more today than yesterday.
Yeah.
That I
a great
heard
track.
that. I heard that one. Al Capps, the singer, did the arranging on that. It was a great arrangement, a great song. And Joe Sample and I were the piano players on it.
Joe Sample.
And Joe, I look over at Joe and he looked at me. He says, "This is good. The group is going to be good for 4 albums." That's how we looked at it. They were so good. Down the road, we said, "Jesus, we're going to keep recording. This is a good part of our living."
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they never got along. We didn't know that, and they broke up almost as soon as the hit was.
Bummer.
And Pat, I forget his last name, Pat something, ended up working at a little joint in Toluca Lake for 10 years, singing.
Man.
And I'd run into him constantly, and nothing ever happened.
Oh, what a shame! What a shame!
It
Well,
was a shame. They were so good.
You hear a lot of stories like that. People that don't, or the one-hit wonders or something that happens.
That's because the egos take over, And
right.
They just.
But you guys, I mean, the Wrecking Crew and those records that you did, I think a lot of people may not realize that. And still today, a lot of times session players will come in, but mainly more now session players will come in on film dates and TV dates. But on album dates, still some. But what was interesting was, like you said, you're working musicians, you're going from one studio to the other, you're working 8 hours, 12 hours in a studio, working with different artists. But these artists, they could be decent musicians, but they were never going to knock it out.
No.
In 3 hours. Some of them could.
Yes.
But weren't going to knock it out in the 3 hours, like you said, the time
Sure.
that the label was demanding that
Sure.
they do. So, I mean, bands like the Association, all these different bands.
The number one band, I mean, I did all those people you keep mentioning. I played on at least one of their albums.
Yeah.
But the one I did a lot of stuff with, and still one of my favorite humans of all time, is Brian Wilson.
Absolutely.
And the Beach Boys.
Absolutely.
And we were in
Studio 3.
Studio 3.
Yeah.
Half my life was in that studio.
I love it so much.
And you know the famous story with Good Vibrations? In
I
there?
don't. Tell me, please
you're
tell
gonna
me.
love this story.
Please tell me.
We had been
That's
working.
why I got you here.
See, if you worked for Phil Spector and Brian Wilson in the same week, you didn't have to work the rest of the month,
Right.
really, because we were paying overtime, double
Oh, we
time.
love it.
We were all on double scale, the key players. So they had baffles, the high baffles about 10 feet high,
Yeah.
surrounding the Hammond B3.
Okay.
And then Hal's over in his spot. And
Who was playing the theremin?
I can't remember the guy's
Right?
name. Yeah, I ran into
Really
him
hard.
years later. I ran into him, and
Ooh.
actually, he was great. That's amazing. Everybody wants to know.
I don't know. It's
that
just
theremin,
random.
That's Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
So now we're doing Good Vibrations. It took 3 months to do that.
That one track?
That one track.
God bless. Happy Studio, Bill Putnam, happy studio owner.
Absolutely. And he can't see me. And he's working on this part. There's one part where I'm playing holding my foot on the Hammond B3 on a low note.
Okay.
Oh, and he says, "Guys, take a break, except for you, Don. Just keep doing it. Keep your foot on that
Oh, man,
note."
your foot goes to sleep probably.
No, it's even better than that. It's funny you say that. He can't see me now, right?
Right,
You got that
okay, yeah,
picture?
yeah.
So he's talking to me through the talkback.
Yeah.
Don, just keep doing it, And the rest of the band goes out in the hall. And you remember there used to be a window in the
Yes.
door
Yes.
that you could see in.
Yeah.
And Hal sees, and he keeps doing it over. Now, we had already been there 8.5 hours at least, all day long, into
God.
the evening. And I'm falling asleep. I
Yeah.
said, I can't do this, And now 10 minutes goes by, 15. Don, keep doing it. And then I hear click, just a second. As he says, just a second, I look over, there was a pillow that for the hard bench that people would sit on it because of the Hammond B3 bench.
Yeah, it's hard, yeah.
So you could sit on that pillow. So I grabbed the pillow and I put it on the foot pedal and I lay down with my head.
Your head on the pedal.
On the pedal.
Oh, my God, the greatest story ever.
And Brian can't see me. And now he says, "Okay, here we go." And there I am
You're
with that
taking a
low
nap?
note again. And I'm out. I fall asleep.
Oh, my God.
And
this is
about
the greatest
at least
story.
10 minutes later, "Don, that was great. Thank you." And Hal saw me and he opens the door and he says, "You have a nice nap?" Now, the kicker, the end of the story is wonderful because Brian didn't know about that till about 4 years ago.
Oh my God, that's
And I
so
get Brian
funny.
calls me in the phone. He says, somebody just told me a story. I said, what's that? He said, did you fall asleep? I said, you're goddamn right I did.
I love it. I can't. Well, we're so lucky to still have Brian with us and the remaining members of the band. And about 10 years ago, they did a 50th anniversary session in Studio 3, and I went out and I bought a copy of Pet Sounds, and everybody signed. It was so great, so awesome. And then, like I said, there's a new movie coming out.
And I'm in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must be in it. And I can't, the premiere's Tuesday night, and I can't go because I'm now on the board, advisory board at Pierce College, so I have to go to that. But Keith, my assistant who's recording us, I just wrote the lady at Disney and said, please let my assistant go in my stead to the premiere on Tuesday night at Mann's Chinese Theater.
Yes, I know. I got invited, and I can't be here because I have to be in New York.
Oh, yeah, what are you doing in New York?
I have to do that Karen Foundation thing.
Right, with Stephen
So we're going to
Stills.
fly in on the 21st, and the job is on the 22nd. But in the morning of the 22nd, Mike, I don't know if you know Mike Levine at all.
I don't.
Mike
when are you coming back?
I'll be back on the 23rd. I'll come back right on the Thursday.
Oh, man, I think we're having a party on the Wednesday night. Hey, Keith, when's the party, the rap party? Oh, he's not in there. He's got the Pro Tools running.
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
Yeah, I won't be back. I'll be in New York.
Oh, bummer.
But that Mike Levine is Larry Levine's son.
Okay.
Who knew nothing really about his father except that he was a studio engineer.
Oh, man.
And
Great engineer.
Now he's doing a documentary about him.
Oh.
And he's been interviewing different people, different engineers especially, because Larry became the head of A&M.
Right.
For Jerry Moss and
Herb Alpert. Yeah. Well, who is the main engineer with the Beatles? Is it Chuck Barrett's, or what was his name, the engineer that worked on
Chuck Britz.
Oh, Britz. Chuck Britz.
He was here.
Oh, he was a staff guy at Western?
Yeah, he was at Western. He did a lot of the stuff for Brian.
Oh, and later it was Bones Howe, Lee Hirschberg.
Yes.
All those guys. Still with us.
Incidentally, I was in Boston. I went to Berkeley for 2 days. I was given the New England Musicians Award.
Ooh.
So we went back and I spent some time at Berkeley, and they did a replica session of a Phil Spector date. They asked me to do it. And they had all the horn players and 4 singers, that the oldest one was 20.
Oh, wow.
That just blew you away. This is at Berkeley College.
Yeah.
But the Englishman that teaches engineering there is amazing.
Oh,
He's absolutely, those kids are very lucky to have him.
I have to find out who that is. I know my friend John Paterno is there now as well, and he's wonderful, wonderful engineer.
So we finished the date, and I put up the number 1. And they said, well, what is that for? I said, all that music went on one track. And they all went, like that.
'Cause
They
it
were
was mono.
gasping. It was mono. That's exactly what it was.
I was wondering about that, and I've never really, I sound ignorant. I've been a studio manager for a long time, but I go into Studio 3 sometimes, and it's hard to get the mono recordings because everything's been digitally remastered and stereo and everything. But when you hear... someone sent me a YouTube clip yesterday, and I'll share it with you, about a session that Lou Adler was doing with the Mamas and the Papas, and it was a demo, and it was John Phillips just working out the parts with Denny and everybody in the band, and it was in Studio 3. And the way that those mono recordings sounded, so clear, so loud, you could hear every instrument, everything, and it's so crazy. Now we got, millions of tracks and millions of... Atmos and all these things. But I'm telling you, you go back and you hear that stuff that you guys did in mono, it fills the room.
A lot had to do with mic placement.
I agree.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
Whereas, Bones, when Bones you'd work for him, he would have everything open, whereas a lot of guys would cover over the piano.
Yeah, or they'd try to isolate
but Bones was different.
Embrace the bleed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, still today, I have 3 older brothers who are engineers. They worked at the record plant in the 70s. My brother Rick is a guitar player. He lives back in Charleston, South Carolina, where we're from now. And my brother Steve's in Seattle. He's a wonderful engineer, still working. And one of the things that I started to be an assistant engineer, and then I ended up becoming a manager very early on. But one of the things, when I see someone do a string date here in Studio One, if they use too many mics, then I think they're kind of missing the point of being in that room and using the sound of that room.
You know something? You're so right on, Candace. That's absolutely the truth. And
Yeah.
that's the problem I had with digital recording.
Yeah.
That you lose the room ambiance, first
Yeah.
of all. I got hired by Capitol, God knows how many years ago, to help them remaster. They were going to pay me a fortune to sit there and remaster all these. And of all first ones I did was a Nat King Cole trio with him singing and playing. And you hear the guitar squeak on the guitar player, and the next time it's gone. And then you hear Nat go to sing a note. There was a breath, and he says, "I can get rid of that." And I said, "Why?
Don't,
Why are
yeah.
you doing that?" And it
Yeah.
became so vanilla. There was no soul to it.
Well, they
you know?
become surgical, and they kind of cut some of the
That's
heart
even a
out
better,
of it.
much better word than I
But
used.
kind of cuts the heart out
It
of
does,
it, right?
it does.
Vanilla's pretty good too. But yeah, so God, Nat King Cole. What did I hear the other day?
You know, I'll tell you a Nat King Cole story that nobody knows.
Oh, this is awesome. Yes.
This is the baked potato.
Okay.
And on Sunday nights we had
You'll have to tell me later how you founded the baked potato. But go ahead.
there was a band, Harry Sweets Edison's. Sweets was one of the great trumpet players from Duke Ellington's band.
Okay.
And Count Basie, and he was a studio musician.
Okay.
But he played every Sunday night, and you couldn't get it. That's when everybody smoked. You'd open the door, and it looked like the baked potato was on fire. The smoke would come bellowing out. And I happened to go down one Sunday night, and I'm at the front door, and my hero walks through the door, and it's Oscar Peterson.
Oh wow.
And Oscar is the reason I played. That's my favorite.
Okay.
So, and I quickly introduced myself, and he's by himself. And he says, I'm going to sit with you. We'll sit right. We
So
sat
who
down.
owned the baked potato then? I thought it was you.
I did. It was 1970, but I just happened to be there
Oh,
that night.
okay.
So he says, we sit down, and now Sweets is playing, and he looks over and sees Oscar, and he says, "You got to come up and play, and sit in with the band." And his piano player was a great piano player by the name of Dolo Coker, guy who always showed up. Everybody would be casual. He was always in a perfect suit.
Oh, we love
I mean, wonderful character, and a great piano player. And Oscar says, no, I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. So they take a break, and I said, he says, "That's a Steinway B, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, that piano was there because of you." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "I saw you at the London House in Chicago playing a Steinway B." He said, "You did?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I have to have a piano like that one day." And he said, I looked at him, I said, "Won't you play one song?" And he just looked at me and he said, "Okay, I'll do that."
Awesome.
So now Oscar Peterson goes up to the piano, and the band comes back, and he says, "No, I'm just playing one song for Don." And
I love it.
Now I'm the hero.
You're the big deal.
But what I didn't know was at the corner of the bar, there was this chick singer, as they say, by the name of Sarah Vaughan.
Oh my God,
And
Sarah
she walks
Vaughan, one of
over-
my favorites.
Sarah walks over to Oscar, and he says, "Sarah," she said, and they ended up he played for her 3 songs. But when Oscar Peterson sang a duet with her, he sounded just like Nat King Cole.
I
never
it.
knew that.
He could sing too.
Oh, he sounded wonderful.
Oh my God, I love this. You've got.
And I'm there, and we didn't have recording. Nothing's going on. Can you imagine?
Oh man.
But that's my Nat King Cole, Oscar Peterson
Capture
story.
that moment. That's crazy.
It is.
Well, it's. I mean, I think I mentioned to you that I've gone to the baked potato like 2 or 3 times, and I'm going to make it a mission to go at least once a month because you're playing tonight.
We're playing tonight. Yes,
Who do you play with now?
Now I have a great guitar player who's been with us quite a while, John DePatty.
Okay.
And tonight the drummer is let's see, it's Jonathan Dressel tonight.
Oh, great drummer.
Jonathan does, and he's worked here with a number of sessions that I've done. He does the Jimmy Kimmel show every night.
Right.
And his brother is Bernie.
I was going to say, is he Bernie's brother,
Yeah,
Bernie
it is.
Dressel? And so, I mean, I really want people to understand, that still all these incredible session musicians that come in, and L.A. has some of the greatest players in the world.
Sure.
And the story that I was told, and you can back it up or let me know if this is true, but supposedly Bing Crosby and Frank got Bill Putnam to come out from Chicago to L.A., and that's when they built these rooms and did all that stuff.
Could very possibly be.
And I think Frank had left EMI and started Reprise.
Yes.
Which was on Warner. So what other stuff did you play on a Frank's?
I played a couple of things.
Okay.
And that was it. Most of the other stuff I did was Frank always had wonderful piano players.
Yeah.
Dean Martin had, what's his name? The guy that Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime.
Oh, what a great
The
song.
guy that was on the TV show. And he didn't play on that. It's me playing the triplets on that. And that was done. Oh, that was at Western, the big studio at Western. We did that. Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime.
Okay, well, that would be Studio One, or would it have been at United?
I think it was at United.
In Studio A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With me.
those rooms are closed right now.
I know, it's over there.
Well, they're still doing some stuff.
They are?
You know,
I
occasionally.
thought they were going to tear it down and put up a building.
God, that's the word on the street. I feel so lucky and thank you. And people like you that come in and book projects. It's the same as what we've been doing all these years, and it's so lucky. Well,
What they did smart here was the smartest thing. They left the room alone.
yeah.
They didn't change the rooms. They just changed the
Yeah,
equipment.
Doug Rogers, he's the owner. He's going to hear this, and he'd be so glad to hear you say that. But when he bought it in '06, and he's an audiophile. He's from New Zealand originally, and he's a producer in his own right.
Yeah.
And he came up with the idea of the sample library company, 35 years ago. East West Sound's one of the first ones ever. And I think we all thought, oh, my God, it's going to put musicians out of business. As the opposite.
Yeah.
Gave them plenty of work and everything else, and people get to do that. But he opened the studio, and I said, look, man, you record all over the world. You got these offices in Beverly Hills. I said, you know what this place is, and God bless him, he saved it. And he didn't touch the rooms, didn't change them, but then fixed up all the stuff that needed to be fixed up.
He did a beautiful job.
I know, it's cool. I'm so lucky. It's amazing. We love you, Doug. But so, wait, I kind of am jumping around. So you're working at Marianne's Surf
Club, and then we went from there. The owner of Sherry's, which was a place at Sunset and Crescent Heights in Hollywood.
Laurel Canyon. Those of you who don't know, becomes Laurel Canyon, Crescent Heights.
And right across the street was a place called Friscotti's,
okay,
which had live music. And across there was a hotel, the Garden of Allah.
Of course.
And that's where all the movie stars would make their sneak shack-ups.
Ooh, okay.
And Sherry's was on the opposite side, a little club, 65 seats.
Wow.
And you never knew who you were going to play for. I remember the first movie star, this is in like 1957 or 58. This gorgeous guy comes in with a beautiful woman, and it was Jeff Chandler.
Oh, wow.
And you talk about a head turner. Man, he always had that tan and the gray hair and lovely. And his wife was gorgeous, and he'd come to see me quite often.
Uh-huh.
And I became a friend of his till he passed away.
Was it your band name, or was it just Don Randi and his friends?
Don Randi and friend. We played duo.
Oh, okay.
And then I told to Pat one night, the owner of the club, who was like a second father to me, and I said, Pat, I have to play trio. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
He says, but I always have duos here. The duos that he had was Hampton Horace, Pete Jolly.
Oh, wow.
Eddie Cano. All these
Incredible.
famous piano players played there. And the gig I got at first was Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. He'd have duo on
Sunday night, a busy night or not a busy night?
They were busy every day and night in that place.
Oh, wow.
So you never know who you were going to be playing to. And then all the Peter Falk, what was it? I called them the mini star band. Peter Falk, John Cassavetes.
Oh my God!
And the other one, I can't. They would play poker right up the hill at Cassavetes' house.
Oh, okay.
And they'd come down for an hour, take a break, and they'd come to Sherry's.
Have a drink, listen
once
to
or
the
twice
band.
a week.
Oh, I love it.
So I'd look up, and there these guys would be.
Dude, when Hollywood was cool. It's cool now, but it was really cool.
It was the best gig you could have had. I was there from 1957 to 1969, and the owner of the club had passed away in 1968, and a new owner took over. And the first thing he'd do, he'd put on all these little plastic lights in there that it did not need.
Right.
It was gorgeous. That club was outstanding. It was just a wonderful place.
I have a question to ask. I was wondering about this. Why baked potatoes? Was it to soak up booze? That was my theory.
Well,
was you'd eat a baked potato before you had drinks?
Well,
I'm probably wrong.
There was a number of places. I like baked potatoes, but
Yeah.
I happened to go to London the end of 1969
Okay.
and 1970 to do a special called the Raquel Welch Special.
Ooh.
We did it with a full, almost a full symphony orchestra, and her
Beautiful gal.
And she had three stars with her. Tom Jones, John Wayne, and Bob Hope.
Oh, my God.
So
Tom Jones, one of my favorite singers
he
of all
is.
time.
Me too. And what a great guy.
Sweetie pie.
Good guy. And so we did that show, and I go to Harrods to bring back some gifts. And on the street at Harrods, they're selling these jacketed potatoes, they call them.
Okay.
They're little baked potatoes that they bake on the streets, and they're in silver
Like
wrapping.
foil or whatever?
Silver foil. And then the god awful, they're putting this greasy bullshit in the potato. And I looked at it, and people are lined up to get these little potatoes because it was cold.
Yeah.
You eat a hot potato
Yeah.
like in New York. So what I said, when I got back, I had an idea, and I told it to my wife. And so we made a bunch of recipes, and we started messing around. And I said,
Dude, I had one with the hot dog in
we
it. It was
opened in
incredible.
We opened in 1970.
Wow.
And we opened with 12 baked potatoes. And she was the original cook.
Oh, my God.
She'd have to leave the kids at home, come down and cook, and go back home.
Oh, my, she's probably so sick of baked potatoes
yes.
after that.
Yeah, but you want to know something? She did almost 3 times a night what they do now. And they do a lot now.
Yeah.
But she did that. And in the beginning, there was no liquor. So it was beer, wine, and food.
Oh, okay.
And we had 2 phones in the hallway for musicians from Arlen's and the 2 answering services that the musicians used.
Oh, wow.
And that club was filled with musicians every night.
What
of
is the
week.
capacity of the baked potato?
Now it's close to 100.
Wow.
And we get, 130. Now with the patio, it's close to 150.
Right. Yeah,
But-
man, I see amazing people there. I think I told you I saw Rafael Morea.
Oh, I love Hoffa.
Dude,
man.
and the drummer was Thomas Lang.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the bass player, I can't remember his name, but he was amazing. But yeah, I can't go tonight. Man, I wish I could go tonight. You're gonna
Yeah.
do. You're 87. You're
Yeah.
doing 8 o'clock show and a 10 o'clock show. You're just young.
And I think Justin's going to sing with us tonight, so that'll be fun.
Oh,
He'll do 3
man.
or 4 numbers.
Man, shoot, man, I should go.
You know,
Is it
most
sold
people
out?
don't realize about
Is it sold out already?
Yeah, it is.
Man.
Justin, was a hell of a child movie star and television
your son
star.
was?
Yeah.
No,
And
I didn't know
he
that.
did over 50 major commercials.
So, and that's the other thing wasn't Kurt Russell a child star too? Like
Yes,
the
yes.
computer that wore tennis shoes or
That's
something
right.
like
Yeah,
that,
sure,
right?
sure.
What was some of the stuff that Justin was in?
Justin he had a.
See, you're putting your kids to work, Don, right? You're like,
well, my wife enjoyed taking them around,
Yeah.
And David, my oldest son, was in a band called Damn the Machine.
oh, okay.
And they were a signed band to A&M.
Oh, wow, that's familiar.
And for big money. And of course, it didn't last very long, and then he was in a group called Ohm,
oh, okay.
which is now with Bobby Pagliari and Chris Poland.
Oh, okay.
And that day, he's an amazing guitar player, and Bobby's an amazing bass player.
Oh, wow.
And they still work at the Baked Potato every once in a
Oh,
while.
I love it.
But all these bands that now I see, Lee Ritenour's son plays at the club.
Oh,
Larry
I love
Carlton's son, Travis.
Oh, he's amazing. He does
Amazing
sessions
bass
here.
player. Amazing.
Yeah, and Abe Jr.'s son, great drummer.
Abe used to ride on my back in the club and play horsey while they were rehearsing.
He's a sweetie pie. Plays with McCartney and everybody. So, what movies was Justin in when he was this child star or TV shows?
Mostly TV. He did one show where he played this little boy with Angie Dickinson.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember the guy's name. Really handsome. I can't remember his name.
I'll look it up.
But he just was amazing. He could get all these little parts, and he had a memory. He could always remember lines.
Nice.
And then he had a series about him, and a little girl was Laura Harden.
Oh, okay.
Melora Harden, and there was a thing on every Saturday, children's show, about a Thunder is what the name of the show was.
Oh, okay.
She rode this beautiful horse,
Named Thunder.
and he rode the mule.
Oh, this is awesome.
But he had never been on a horse when they started to do a series.
Dude, and mules aren't nice. Mules can be really difficult.
So he had to learn, and he was a little apprehensive of it. And then towards the end of the show, he would be fast asleep laying on the back of the horse.
Oh, I love it. He just got so comfortable. Well,
Sure.
you followed your lead. He fell asleep on the job.
Incidentally, Brian Wilson did something for me.
Aw.
He did an album of just Brian plays piano and sings in Europe. They gave him probably a lot of money to do it. And it's just him playing and singing. And when we were on a tour, my daughter and Justin was singing with me. And a guy comes over with an album. Brian plays piano and sings. He says, "Could you sign this?" I said, "Well, I didn't know he did that album." He says, "Oh yeah, I got it." He says, "Could you sign it?" I said, "Sure." He says, "But could you sign it here?" And he's pointing to the inside cover. And Leah, my daughter, looks down. She says, "Look what it says, Dad."
What's it say?
"This album is dedicated to Don Randi."
Oh.
How about that?
Brian Wilson. Yeah. I got to meet Brian early in my career. I was working at another studio. You would know it as the old Kendon Recorders, where I started out in Burbank. It's called Glenwood Place now. And it was when Brian was with Dr. Landy or whatever, but he was working on a record, and there was another wonderful keyboard player, a young man named Michael Bernard.
Yeah.
Very talented kid. And Brad Gilderman was the engineer. I have a wine group now. It's a bunch of engineers. There's like 8 of us, and I cooked yesterday for the wine group. I got a little hangover, but Brad Gilderman was the engineer on this. It's a funny story, and I don't know. I've never told Brian the story. I've never reminded him, but Brian was working on this track, and he wanted it to be sort of like a disco track, and the guys played a joke on me, and they told Brian that I was like a professional like jazz dancer, which is bullshit. I'm not a dancer. And he said it was so ridiculous. They were like, "Come into the live room, Canson. Brian wants to see if you could dance to this song, wants to see if it's a disco song or whatever." I'm like, "What? I'm not a dancer." I go in there and Brian's like, "Yeah, Candace, just dance, just do something or whatever." And they're in the control room losing it, laughing their butts off. And I'm out there trying to like dance it. So I don't even remember the name of the song. And I look like an idiot, and I'm like that. And Brian's like, "Yeah, that's enough. I think we're okay now." Like, I don't even remember the name of the song.
Oh, Jesus.
But Brian's been in a few times, and I never mentioned that story because it's too embarrassing. But I'm just so glad that he's playing, and they're playing. Now, are you? Do you have plans? Do you go out? And do you play with anybody else still?
Well, I'm trying to talk. Light in the Attic is a company that started out here. Now I think they moved to Texas.
Oh, okay.
But they do reproductions of things.
Oh, okay.
Nancy's albums that have been reproduced by them.
They're just reissuing things.
And they're going through the roof because it's all vinyl.
Oh, it's amazing. I got a turntable in the office. I'm a big vinyl fan.
And it's like, so I'm trying to talk her into going out, and she loves John, my guitar player, because he's been...
You guys want to book time in Studio One? You can redo something stupid anytime. You tell me if you're ready, man. That'd be so awesome. Sometimes when I'm given a tour, I try to like play a track that was done in the room that we're in at the time, and it'll usually be from my phone. But I'll play like My Way or something like that in Studio One so people can hear, And the stories about Frank, just him being such an incredible musician, if someone was out of key or something like that. But the players would wait all day, and then he'd come in and knock it out in 20 minutes.
Listen, I got to ride in the private jet 50 different times.
Nice.
With my wife, Nancy, his wife, Barbara, Jilly Rizzo, myself, and Frank. Going from Atlantic City to Burbank.
God, I love it.
And the stories, I know, were just incredible.
Well, and
just
I think Frank did a lot, for breaking down racial barriers by having Sammy Davis. He's
Listen, some of the jokes they made, though, you couldn't do today.
Oh, you couldn't do that. You get canceled or whatever, But, I just think it's amazing. And I think, I'm just so honored that, I get to run the place that Frank was in Studio One all the time.
Sure. I did a funny thing in the big studio. I was doing a film called what was it? The hell was the name of the film?
Because your memory's better than mine.
With Glenn Ford in it, a Western, a movie that he had made.
Okay, great actor.
And I had like 20 strings out there and a full orchestra for the cues. And we took a break, and I decided to have some fun, and I went over to the string section. And I took the violins and I put them all in the different, because they leave them on their chairs.
Yeah. Oh, shit, you moved them?
I moved them to different, and not one of them, they walked over and they didn't even say anything. They just handed
each other the right one. Oh,
and I'm standing there, I said, I wish I could have filmed this fucking thing. It was incredible.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So you've done so many tracks and so many things all over the world, and you're still doing it. You're still playing. What do you call? What's the band called tonight?
Don Randi and Quest.
Oh, Quest. Okay, Don Randi and Quest. But there's got to just be a million stories. Is there anything crazy? Like, did anybody
Can you imagine one of the greatest songs of all time by the Beach Boys? right over there in Studio 3.
Well, Good Vibrations.
God Only Knows.
Oh, God Only Knows.
You know how that song starts, the lyric to that?
No, it's an odd one. Go ahead. What is it?
I may not always have loved you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I may not always love you.
How can you start a love?
Well, no, and when
song?
you listen to the words of God Only Knows, it's kind of confusing. It's
Yes,
like, yeah.
you got it.
Yeah. But, anyway, Brian's amazing still. Amazing.
I think that was Asher wrote that with him, wasn't it? Tony Asher?
Oh, yeah. But you know who was here the other day, and I missed him, and I want to get him on the show, was Van Dyke Parks.
Oh, yeah, he's so great.
Now, Van Dyke, he must have been just like a teenager.
He was right at the very beginning. Him and Randy Newman both started out together in a group called High Coin.
Oh, really?
I did that for Warner Brothers. I did played on those sessions, and became good friends with Randy.
But Van Dyke was a kid.
Yes, he
working
was.
with Brian. Was he in his teens?
Yes,
20s?
but his brother, Van Dyke's brother, also was into something, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And that was the early days of Warner Reprise when Mo Austin was the head of it. That's when I got signed to Warner Reprise, and Jimmy Bowen was my producer. Now, Jimmy Bowen is an interesting guy. I think out of all of the producers, the independent, he knew how to select songs. He was a true art and repertoire man, A&R.
Real.
He would say, I think you should do this song. This would be a good song for you to do. He knew songs very well.
I mean, there's some great A&R people still today, but that's a real skill.
It was. And
like Jerry Wexler or Ahmet Erdogan and those guys kind of getting what would suit.
Yes.
All those guys, like, Stax, all those companies.
They had, Warner Brothers had Jimmy Bowen, and they had Dick Lasser, and Ted sometimes, Dick Glasser's brother, Ted Glasser would do some stuff there.
Okay.
And there were 2 or 3 other producers that were under Jimmy.
Right.
And Jimmy knew how to who was the best at that?
And they knew how to make records. They came in and they actually understood what we do.
Right, exactly. Jimmy Bowen was one of my favorite guys to work with, too. And he got me to do arranging. That's when I started doing arrangements. And that was the first ones I did. And then...
Now, did you always read music or...
I always read, but not as good as some of the guys. Some of the guys, we say they could read fly shit on the paper.
That's probably what it looked like, right?
But, I could read quite well,
Yeah. Well, obviously.
Yeah, but most of the dates that we did in those days, that didn't require that. They required you would have good rhythm, and be able.
And they'd let you improvise.
That's right, and they want
give you a beat or give
get some of your soul into the record. The drummers though that were in the beginning were a big help.
Oh yeah,
because it wasn't always Hal. It was Earl Palmer.
Amazing.
Johnny Guerin.
Yeah.
And my favorite of them all was a kid by the name of Jimmy Gordon.
Yes.
What a
Who
tragic life.
Who went on to play with the Allman Brothers.
And Joe Cocker.
Oh yeah. Oh, Susan Tedeschi and Derek Tedeschi Trucks. They just did a remake of Mad Dogs and Englishmen of that tour.
Yeah.
And Leon Russell was still alive when they did part of it, but they got like Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes, and I saw it because Claudia Lanier, who was the background singer,
sure.
On that tour, and also, toured with the Stones and stuff like that. I got to go, Paula Salvatore, who I adore, my friend who ran Capitol for so many years, took me to that screening of that remake, and man, it was unbelievable, the people that did the new one.
Yeah.
But they kept true to it, and it was... Man, what a crazy tour that must have been.
Oh, the conga player that was with the original band, his name is Bobby Torres. He lives in Portland.
Okay.
But he was in my band for many years. And then he got the gig with Tom Jones for many years.
Oh, wow.
He did the tour. But his first gig was with Joe Cocker. He was a Puerto Rican.
Dude, you got to get Tom to come out and play at the Potato. But don't tell anybody. Like, don't call it Tom Jones. Like, call it something so people don't know. Because it's only 100 people in the baked potato. You'd be lining down the street.
Tom, he's got a thing of, it's a man's world.
Right.
With this chick singer singing with him. And it was on Instagram the other day.
Oh, really?
And she's fucking amazing. And I couldn't get her name. I looked all over for it.
I'll check
but
that out.
It's just absolutely wonderful.
Dude, he is such a badass. I saw him in the 80s. Remember when the Universal Amphitheater was an outdoor theater?
I sure do.
And I saw, it might have been enclosed by the time I saw this show, but I had a friend whose name is Charlie Watts, and not the drummer from the Rolling Stones, but his name is Charlie Watts. And he worked with Tom, and he got me backstage, and I happen to be Welsh. I'm of Welsh descent.
Yeah.
My grandparents on both sides were Welsh. Apparently, supposedly, that's where my hair comes from. And I was backstage with my husband, Brian, and Tom walks up after the show, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Are you Welsh?" And I go, I am. He goes, "Come with me." And I go back with him, and we drink a bottle of wine. And my poor husband's waiting out there for me to come back, like a half hour later. But he was just the nicest guy.
Yes, yeah.
He was trying to teach me some Welsh words. It was way too deep. I couldn't get it. It was like, I couldn't understand it.
he and I shot pool one night.
Dude, he's the coolest.
Oh, he can play pool, too.
Oh, I have no doubt.
But he's also got wonderful. And you know what? On the thing I saw on Instagram, there's Tom. He looks the same, only with gray hair.
Yeah, it's just curly gray hair.
He looks wonderful.
But he's
and
in great
his voice
shape.
is just so good.
He's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, there's some young singers that could take a page out of his book. He really just, that's the instrument. But you've heard these hands, right? That's the thing, right?
Yes. You have my book, don't you?
No, I need your book.
I'm going to give it to you.
Oh, man, and you got to autograph it, too.
I will.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, you're still doing it. You're keeping going. You got the baked potatoes rocking it.
Oh, yeah.
Is Justin running the club?
It's his now.
Oh, okay. All right. I remember you mentioned you were thinking about opening another location.
We had 3 of them at one point.
You did?
We had the one in Hollywood, which was not far from here, which was right near Sunset and Vine.
Okay.
And then we had one in Pasadena. That was a big one.
Oh, okay.
And we had some great shows
But
there.
you're down to the
back to the original.
The original location. And that's the original
And it
location.
survived the COVID thing, And
It's so hard.
You know what worked out well for us is that we had to build a patio.
Yeah.
And now the patio, people love to sit out there,
Yeah.
and they have 2 giant screens. And,
Yeah, you can hear and see.
And the sound is incredible, so.
Yeah, it's one of the most incredible places. If you've never been to a show at the Baked Potato, do yourself a favor. Just go onto the calendar. Any night of the week, you're going to see great people. And people will show up to jam with other people.
Yes, they do. They do.
I saw Michael Landau there. Oh, my God. And Lukather, I saw him.
One night we're playing there. This is years ago. And I had just finished working at Capitol, and the guy I was finished working with the lead singer, was the doorman at the club, just being as a joke. And I look up, and it's Lou Rawls seating people at my club.
Oh my God, you
So
gotta
Lou
love it.
said, I said, "Get up here," and we
Yeah.
we did a half hour.
Oh, how
with Lou.
fun! How fun!
But
well, I mean, all the records, all the years with Phil Spector, and then Jimmy Bowen. Your own thing with Nancy, with Frank. Yeah, man, you gotta get could Nancy, because she probably can still sing.
Oh, she says I can't sing anymore. I said that's bullshit.
She probably sounds
I don't
great.
believe her. She
Yeah.
probably sounds great.
We should have to get her to come in and
she
do
came.
something.
Hal Blaine got a star in Palm Springs in
Okay.
the sidewalk, and they did a big deal about it.
Okay.
And everybody in Palm Springs, and we played at a little club called right down on. What the hell is
Downtown
that?
Palm
Oscars.
Springs.
It's called Oscars.
Oscars.
It's a neat little club in Palm Springs.
Okay.
And we did a 60s thing. I had singers and Justin and my
Did
daughter
you put
Leah.
it together?
I put it together, and it was all the hits, all the stuff like that. And we're doing Boots, and all of a sudden I hear out of the audience, "Just a minute," and it's Nancy. So Leah, my daughter, and Nancy got to sing Boots together. She showed up at the thing, and
I can't even. I've listened on 88.1, the jazz station.
Yeah.
And they have the Frank Sinatra. I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot the DJ's name that does the show, but it's the boss, and it's all
sure.
Frank Sinatra stuff. But he did that song on Nancy with the laughing eyes. Oh my God, is that right? Laughing?
Nancy Face.
Oh yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. It's a great song. Anyway, it's Frank
It
Sinatra.
is. It is. You know that Nancy's mother and I were very close.
Barbara.
No, Nancy Sr.
Ah.
Nancy and Barbara is,
Got it. Yeah. Different wives.
But Nancy Sr., man, I got hung up for money one time a long time ago. And
she helped you out?
Just wrote out a check.
Aww. But that's the kind of family.
Oh, yeah, she was just so sweet. But I get a phone call from her mother, Don, the girls are coming over. I need a good dirty joke.
I love it.
I have to tell her.
I have a joke. I can't tell it on the show, but my assistant told the other. It was really funny. I mean, it's not PG. We can say what we want.
You heard. I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
A guy goes into the bar.
Okay.
He's got a brown paper bag.
Uh-huh.
And he puts the brown paper bag on the bar. And the bartender comes over. He says, "Can I help you?" He says, "Yes, I'd like a scotch and soda, please." And as the bartender turns around to he notices something in the bag is moving.
Oh, man.
And he comes back and he sees it moving again. He says, "Something's moving in that bag." He says, "I know." He says, "Would you like to see it?" He says, "Sure." So he reaches in the bag and he takes out this little miniature grand piano, takes out a stool, and out comes a little guy and sits down and starts to play concertos. And the bartender says, "Oh my God, I don't believe that." He said, how did that happen?" He says, "Well, I got this jar and I rubbed it." He says, "You rubbed it and a genie came out, right?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Could I do it?" He says, "Sure." He hands him the jar and he rubs it. "Your wish is my command." And the bartender looks at him and says, "I'd like $1 million." Boom. And in a second, there's ducks flying all over. He says, "For God's sake, I didn't say ducks, I said bucks. What are you, deaf?" And the guy looks at him, he says, "You think I wish for a 12-inch pianist?"
All right, that's the end of this episode. The 12-inch pianist. Okay, you can give me a job. I think it's hysterical. Don, I love you so much.
I love you too,
We'll do it
Candace.
again. We're going to do another episode because there's got to be just a million stories. I can't even imagine it. But like I said, yeah, please tell Stephen Stills I said hi. And next week when the Beach Boys are here, Keith is going to tell him that Don Randi said hi, aren't you, Keith?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is. All right, well, thank you so much, darling.
Thank you.
So much we will do it again.
Absolutely.
Because there's got to be a lot more stuff I can't even imagine. Nader, you have no idea. This is royalty here. I'm telling you.
Someone says you're a legend, and I always say in my spare time.
Yeah, in my own mind. Yeah. Oh, I love you to pieces. Anyway, thank you. Trade secrets. Love you.
Thanks.